The 2020 season is really keeping us on our toes here at Playbook. We got 2 games postponed this week because of COVID-19, but man, there's some big matchups, including a Friday night showdown and an intriguing non-conference game to look forward to this week. I am Chris Clark. Let's get this thing started, shall we? Yeah, we are now less than a week away from the reveal of the first official college football playoff rankings of the season. So let's take a look at the top of the AP poll, if you will. Notre Dame and Clemson held firm in their spots, with the Irish staying at number 2 with a win over Boston College, and Clemson sticking at 4th in a bye week. Miami beat Virginia Tech on the road, but it was close enough to drop the Hurricanes out of the top 10 to 12th. And Clemson, they're the only one of those 3 ranked teams who's actually playing a game this week. WSBA's Pete Yannity covering the Tigers, who hit the road to take on a struggling Florida State team in Tallahassee. Pete?
Coming off an open date, the Clemson Tigers are back in action Saturday, a noon kickoff at Florida State. Among other things, it'll be the first game this season that Clemson plays not ranked as the number 1 team in the land. They, of course, dropped down to number 4 after their loss 2 weeks ago in double overtime at Notre Dame, a loss that snapped a long regular season winning streak for the Clemson Ball Club. Now, among the notes going into Saturday, Trevor Lawrence will play his first game in nearly a month. He had to sit out contests against Boston College and the Fighting Irish because he was diagnosed with COVID-19. He talks about how much he's back into the groove.
The only issue maybe was just being a little rusty, timing-wise with some of the receivers, but I felt really good physically. Just took me a couple of days to get back in shape just from, sitting around for 10 days or whatever it was. So that was the only thing. It's just a couple of days to just run a little bit, get back in shape. Then after that, I felt good. Just had to get my timing back. So I feel like I'm in a really good spot right now with the team.
Well prepared and focused and really locked in to trying to get back out and lead the team and play his best football. So you know what you're going to get from 16. There's no doubt about that.
It's a Tiger Ball Club that'll try for a program first. No Clemson team has ever won 3 consecutive games in Tallahassee, but that's on the table for this squad on Saturday afternoon. Covering the Clemson Tigers, I'm Pete Yannity.
Florida State is on a 3-game losing streak as they prepare to take on the 4th-ranked Tigers in Tallahassee. And let's bring in WMBB's Courtney Mims for a closer look at how the Seminoles are hoping to pull off a big surprise. And Courtney, be honest here. I know it's tough and I know where you are, but any chance Florida State comes away with a win in this one?
Chris, let me take a long, hard think about this. No, I don't think there's any way that Florida State does come away with a win in this one. And that's because of several reasons. One of them being the point spread really tells the story here. Now, Clemson favored by nearly 5 touchdowns. Clemson has actually outscored FSU 104-24 over the last 2 meetings. I don't think if you look at those stats, it seems like FSU has a fighting chance. Now, the last time the Tigers were in Tallahassee, Clemson won 59-10 over the Seminoles, and that was actually FSU's largest margin of defeat in a conference contest. FSU just isn't looking any better this year under Mike Norvell. This season is their worst since the mid-1970s. I know this is a lot of bad. I don't think anybody in Tallahassee expects the Noles to win, but if they do, they're going to have to score early on, because in the last 3 meetings between these two, FSU has actually failed to score in that first half. But that's going to be easier said than done against this awesome Clemson team that now has Trevor Lawrence back.
Well, they're never going to accuse us of being homers in this place, that's for sure, with answers like that. Thank you, Courtney. I'm not sure if we have to give her security now? No? She's good? Okay, fine. No, seriously, moving on here. Florida State, they have started 4 different quarterbacks in 8 games this year. Who's going to be under center this Saturday for the Noles?
Chris, I think that's the million-dollar question for FSU fans. They've gone, who is going to start this week for us at QB? Because there's been so many issues at that position specifically. Now, Jordan Travis is expected to start, but he's been hit or miss in every single game. That guy just gets hurt no matter what happens. So he is expected to start. Mike Norvell did say he has been practicing. He's going to be okay for the Clemson game. Now, there was some sad news at that position earlier on this week. Chubba Purdy is done for the year with a shoulder injury. Now, he did have the shoulder injury, and he broke his collarbone back in the preseason. But they patched it up. It was okay. Now he's going back to surgery because he aggravated it in last week's game. So that is sad news for the Noles. So if you're counting at home, home. That means there's only 2 scholarship quarterbacks available for FSU, because James Blackman decided he's going to be transferring and he's not going to play for the rest of the year. So that means only Tate Rodemaker and Travis is left in terms of those scholarship quarterbacks. Now, Mike Norvell did say he has a plan if either of those guys do get hurt, because there's a good chance that Travis could get hurt again. There's a good chance that Rodemaker might be hurt as well in a game in the future. So there is a plan. We just don't know of that plan. So that makes a lot of FSU fans here nervous.
Well, you know, at least he's got a plan, which is more than I can say for some of the teams that we cover here, which will go nameless. But let's just hope they don't have to put that fail-safe plan in. Now, speaking of quarterbacks here, you mentioned him earlier, Heisman candidate Trevor Lawrence returns for Clemson this week. How are the Seminoles going to try and slow him down and the rest of that Tiger offense, if you will? Yeah,
well, I think the Seminoles are shaking in their boots that Trevor Lawrence is back this week. I think some of them were hoping that something would happen. One more week he has to stay in quarantine, but no, he's back, and I think that makes them very, very scared. You know, you talk about this defense. They had high hopes for the year. Everyone had high hopes for the Seminoles defense, but going up against an offense like Clemson, I just don't know if they do have a shot. It's like trying to be a piece of paper and going up against a buzzsaw. It just doesn't happen. You don't have the talent there. You can't do it. And not to mention, defensive players on FSU keep dropping like flies. One of their best players, lineman Marvin Wilson, out for the rest of the year with a leg injury. That was announced earlier this week as well. And just today, Noles defensive tackle Corey Durden actually opted out for the rest of the season. So they're going to have to rely on some of those younger guys, Robert Cooper, Fabian Lovett, Dennis Briggs. They're going to have to step up into the roles and try and stop a Clemson offense that we haven't seen many teams do this year. So it's going to be very tough for these Noles. I just don't know if they have it in them for this one. I think this game is really going to be a lot of experience. There's going to be a lot of movement. Guys that are going to play that we haven't seen before play, because I think everyone in Tallahassee knows this is going to be a loss. So really the only thing that they can gain from this is experience playing some of the guys that we maybe haven't seen before.
Painting, I was going to say pretty pictures with words, but definitely memorable pictures with words, and not shying away from the tough questions with good answers. Thank you very much, Cordy. Try and stay positive this weekend if you would.
I'll try. It's going to be difficult.
Well, one nice thing about playing in Florida, it's going to be a beautiful day for football. 73 degrees and sunny for the noon kickoff with a 0% chance of rain. The only other ACC game involving a ranked team this weekend features NC State, but they're not taking on anyone in the conference. The Wolfpack hosts the 21st ranked Liberty Flames. Let that sink in. That's right, Liberty, who have already topped 2 ACC teams, so don't laugh too loud there. But NC State will be hoping to use their high-powered offense to stop the Flames' undefeated start to the season. As WNCN's Todd Gibson reports, the Wolfpack scoring more than 33 points a game. Man, that is a huge improvement over last year. Todd?
The NC State offense was a white-hot mess a year ago, ranking 12th in the ACC in scoring while burning through 3 quarterbacks, none of which was able to find his groove. But this year is different. The players are much more confident, having bought in to a new system.
I think the offense took it personal of the outcome from 2019, and we all just had to look each other in the mirror and say, like, we have to do better. So we just did that. Obviously, we had our things we wanted to improve upon, but I think Coach Beck coming in, really, you know, he talks us up a big game, and I feel like he instills confidence in us on a daily basis. Like, obviously, you coach people hard, you coach them, you know, to get better and stuff like that, but he also does a great job of, you know, talking about, he's honest with us, like, when you do a good job, to let you know, and he thinks that we're one of the top offenses in the ACC, if not the country, stuff like that. So he preaches that stuff, and I think we're all bought into what he's saying.
The process that we went through during the off season, like the type of bond that we have with each other, that's 10 times better than what it was last year, I would say. I just feel like the brotherhood that we have and that we went through, the type of adversity that we have been going through with each other, it just makes it, you know, we want to play harder for each other, like to our man, to our left, and to our right.
It's a group effort, you know, and I think it all starts with the leadership over there and the way that Tim has got those guys to buy in and the players wanting to be a really good offense. And so it's been fun to watch and be a part of, and it's just still evolving, and that's kind of the cool part of it. You know, it's each week he's tweaking it here and there.
And the Pack will need all the offense they can get on Saturday when high-powered number 21 Liberty comes to town for a 7:30 kickoff. Following the Wolfpack in Raleigh, I'm Todd Gibson.
Thanks a lot there, Todd. I'm not sure what happened to the Pitt Panthers and those back-to-back one-point losses to NC State and Boston College, but ever since then, man, they just haven't been the same. I mean, the next two games were blowout losses before they got healthy against Florida State. This week, the Panthers try and come back after an unexpected off week. They take on a Virginia Tech team that's it's having its share of issues as well. Think about this. These two teams are a total of 6 points away, not each, total, from having 4 more wins and each being 6-2. Yeah, Pitt's 2 losses by a point, and Virginia Tech lost games to Miami and ranked unbeaten Liberty by a total of 4 points. Virginia Tech's got the edge here. The Hokies not only beat the NC State Boston College teams that Pitt lost to, but they did so with little trouble, winning both games by more than 20 points. But first, you have to play the game, and after what happened with COVID last week, Coach Narduzzi isn't taking anything, and I mean anything, for granted.
I talk to our guys all the time about, keep your guard up. Don't let your guard down. Don't, just pretend like everybody's got it out there. And I think when you look at the numbers in Allegheny County with COVID right now, the number just keeps going up. I was in the 500s yesterday. I keep an eye on it. Just the more people out there that have it, the more chance you have as you're moving around this city of getting it, whether it's a doorknob, whether it's a counter at McDonald's. You don't know where it's going to be, or in Tallahassee somewhere. I mean, it's, the crazy thing is you don't know where it came from.
Now, those last 2 losses we talked about for Virginia Tech, of course, came against ranked teams, but both were at home in Blacksburg. WFXR's Jermaine Farrell is covering the Hokies, who hit the road after a 1-point loss to Miami. Jermaine?
The Virginia Tech Hokies footballers, looking to bounce back after their tough loss to the Liberty Flames, had another tough challenge, taking on the 9th-ranked Miami Hurricanes at Lane Stadium last Saturday. And Hendon Hooker accounted for 260 yards and a touchdown, but it wasn't enough as number 9 Miami rallied from a double-digit third-quarter deficit to beat the Hokies 25-24. Now, with the loss, the Hokies, they fell to 4-4 overall in the season, 4-3 in the ACC. Miami, which won its 4th straight, they moved to 7-1 overall and 6-1 in league play. Tech was in great shape in the third quarter, taking a 24-13 lead, but Miami got 2 touchdowns to nip the Hokies. Now, the stars of the Miami game, Jalen Holston, had 2 rushing touchdowns, and they were his first of the season and his first since 2018. He now has 7 career rushing touchdowns. And Gerard Hewitt tied his career high with 2.5 sacks. He now has 4.5 sacks for the season and 8.5 sacks for his career.
I am incredibly proud of the way they handled it, and I'm hurting immensely for our kids because, man, that, you can imagine all that they've dealt with through the week, and again, this season is just the most unique season ever in terms of COVID, and guys could have folded up shop, and they refused to. And they really sold out to go get the job done, and they came up a little bit short. We came up a little bit short.
Nobody likes losing here, everyone's pretty upset, but the thing is, I'm proud of my guys. Coach Fuente kind of echoed that, talking about how proud he was of the preparation we had this week and kind of coming out against a really good football team and giving it our all, and it really came down to the wire. It doesn't feel good, I'll tell you that, but proud of my guys.
Now, the coronavirus pandemic is impacting college athletes both on and off the field, and head coach Justin Fuente is seeing it firsthand.
I mean, you can imagine, quite honestly, how much you enjoyed your college experience, particularly when you were young and you're a freshman and, you're in the dorms and, you're in the dining hall or whatever it is. You're meeting people from different places. I mean, it's just, and this is not just football players. I mean, this is all young people. I mean, I've told you all, I see this with my own girls at home. I mean, they want to go to school and go see their friends. My 7th grader is tired of hanging out with their 3rd grade sister. I mean, they want to go be around people their age and enjoy it. And it's just not, it's just not kosher right now, right? Like you got to have your mask on and be in the dorms and don't go out and don't go have a good time. So it's pretty difficult on these guys.
Now, Saturday, Virginia Tech makes the trip to the Ketchup Bottle, a.k.a. Heinz Field, to play the Pitt Panthers. It will be the 20th meeting between the Hokies and the Panthers, with Virginia Tech winning 11 times, including 3 of the last 4. Last year at Lane Stadium, Tech shut out Pitt 28-0. Now, since Pitt joined the ACC in 2012, the programs have met 8 times, with each earning 4 victories apiece. Previously, the two foes were Big East counterparts. Covering the Virginia Tech Hokies, I'm Jermaine Farrell.
Thanks, Jermaine. Kickoff at the Ketchup Bottle, as he called it, is Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And it's a Friday Night Lights at Cardinal Stadium in Louisville this week, and both of these teams could really use a win. Louisville's 2-6 on the season and hasn't won a game in nearly a month. And for Syracuse, it's even worse. The Orange picked up their only win of the season all the way back in September. WSYR's Stephen Fonte is taking a look at how the Qs will try to end that long losing streak. But first, let's send it over to WEHT's Randall Parmley, who's covering the Cardinals. Randall?
Well, the nightmare of a season continued over the weekend for Louisville. The Cardinals were blown out by Virginia, losing in Charlottesville 31-17. The Cards are now 2-6, and all hopes of a bowl bid are gone. Scott Satterfield says now the mindset has to be to stay positive.
Our guys, to their credit, when we come out here for practice, they've done a really nice job. They've come here, they've wanted to work, they've gotten to work in. So much of what we're going through, with the wins and losses doesn't have to do with effort. A lot of it's just the mistakes and that we've had. And so, they got to bring it every time. And that's kind of, we're just trying to stay positive when they come into the building and to keep moving forward.
Could be easier said than done, and even more bad news for Louisville. Running back Javian Hawkins, one of the Cards' best players, announced on Monday that he was opting out of the remainder of the season and concentrating on the NFL draft. Covering the Louisville Cardinals, I'm Randall Parmley.
Well, despite SU's 1-7 record, Orange fans actually have reason to pay attention as this team returns from its second and final bye week, and that reason is the quarterback position. Jacobian Morgan has looked very good in his limited action. He was a perfect 7 for 7 on his lone drive against Wake Forest back on Halloween, then completed about 65% of his passes and threw a touchdown in his first career start against Boston College. Dino Babers has not definitively said who's going to start at QB against Louisville on Friday, but all signs point toward Morgan getting another shot. The true freshman has proven to be up for the challenge so far, and his coach is hoping the bye week gave him even more confidence heading into this contest against the Cards.
We're just trying to increase the volume on his plate. He was in a situation where we're not able to do everything that we're capable of doing, and then some of the other things that we would like to do has to be based off of his experiences. And there's no doubt there's limitations, but I thought so far the stuff that we've been giving him, he's been doing okay.
Kickoff set for 7 p.m. Friday on ESPN. Dino Babers is 1-3 against the Cardinals since joining the Orange. That includes a 56-34 loss last year down in Louisville. Covering Syracuse, I'm Stephen Fonte.
Thank you, Steve. You heard him. This weekend's ACC action starts early. Syracuse and Louisville kickoff for Friday night. That one starts at 7. And this season, Virginia has struggled to find the form that got them to the ACC championship game last year. But as WRIC's Natalie Calabit reports, the Cavaliers are getting back on track and are big favorites against a struggling FCS team this weekend. Natalie?
After a slow start, things are starting to fall in place for the Virginia Cavaliers. UVA picked up its second straight win on Saturday, defeating the Louisville Cardinals at Scott Stadium 31-17.
I was really pleased and impressed with how hard our team fought and played versus Louisville. I think it was a complementary football approach that helped us move forward through that game.
Virginia has now played well in its last 3 games, winning 2 and coming close to an upset at Miami. For head coach Bronco Mendenhall, having quarterback Brennan Armstrong healthy again has made all the difference.
Rather than making it bigger and broader and other influencers that I think are present, it's having Brennan back to back to back, just having our quarterback available to play football.
Virginia will shift gears this week to its only out-of-conference game of the season. They'll take on an FCS team, Abilene Christian, on Saturday.
We were really trying to find an opponent, not the opponent, that might fit, knowing it was a straight-through ACC schedule.
The Cavaliers and the Wildcats will tee it up at 4 o'clock. A victory would move UVA back to 500 for the season. Covering Virginia, I'm Natalie Calabat.
Well, postponements, non-conference games, and the return of one of the ACC's best players make this one of the most unpredictable weeks so far this season. So let's bring in Jason Logan from Covers.com to break it all down for us. And Jason, Trevor Lawrence is back under center for Clemson, which is coming off a bye following that loss to Notre Dame 2 weeks ago. The Tigers visit floundering Florida State on Saturday. How big a favorite is Clemson now that it's back to full strength?
Yeah, pretty big here. Clemson opened as a monster 32.5-point favorite, and the action is coming in on the Tigers. It's pushed them to minus 34.5 right now, but big spreads, it's nothing new to the Tigers. Clemson was a 25.5-point favorite against FSU last season. They won that game 45-15. They covered that big pile of chalk. And we will look at recent meetings between these two programs. The Tigers have covered in 3 straight versus the Noles, pegged as favorites of 16.5, 18.5, 25.5, and they're actually 11-4 ATS in the last 15 matchups with FSU. You could say that Clemson might still have some work to do here because of that loss to Notre Dame and got to get their name back into that CFP title conversation. So those style points could be something that they're out for here, and that could be driving this line movement. The Seminoles, they've dropped 3 in a row. They failed to cover in each of those 3 games, and they're allowing more than 42 points per game. So the spread is definitely warranted.
And NC State hosts Liberty this weekend. God, it just sounds crazy to say that. Liberty, man. And they've already taken down 2 ACC teams, Syracuse and Virginia Tech. They've already fallen to the flames, like I said. And what do the Wolfpack have to do to watch out for if they want to avoid the same fate?
Yeah, they kind of have to watch out for a little bit of everything because Liberty does a lot of things good on both sides of the football here. But they got to be much better on defense. That's one thing. That NC State has allowed almost 34 points per game on the year, and they've been notably soft against the pass. And Liberty has Auburn transfer Malik Willis under center, and he's just been outstanding this year. 15 touchdowns, only 1 interception on the year. He's thrown for 868 yards the past 3 games, and he's just a threat to break off big games on the ground. He's rushed for 700 yards rushing on the year. 9 TDs on the ground this season. The last time NC State saw a guy like this, it was Miami's De'Ara King, and he torched them for 535 total yards of offense, 5 passing TDs in early November. NC State is currently a 3.5-point home favorite, but our consensus numbers actually show 69% of the bets coming in on Liberty.
And Pitt hosts Virginia Tech with that Panthers' stingy rushing defense taking on the Hokies' run game, ranked 8th in yards per game on the ground. Who do the bookies like in what's shaping up to be a battle in the trenches Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, Pitt opened as a field goal underdog. And it's since jumped to plus 3.5, despite 60% of the early bets coming in on the Panthers. And that's what we call reverse line movement. It's actually moving away from the team that's the popular bet. And what that can tell you is that sharp money or that more respected betting action landing on VT. Pitt snapped a 3-game slide with the win over Florida State last time out. And that skid, if you look at it, came against some pretty good teams. Virginia Tech's coming off a tough loss against Miami. They blew an 11-point lead in the 4th quarter of that game. The Hokies had just 160 yards on the ground, and running back Khalil Herbert, he's still nursing a nagging hamstring injury that's kind of slowed him up here the last few weeks. Coach Fuente, he is optimistic that Herbert is going to be closer to 100% for Saturday. They're increasing his practice reps. They're expecting some big things, so they really need to get him going because Pitt allows only 2.4 yards per carry to opponents on the year. You want to look at the recent betting results between these two teams. The Panthers have been great. Covered the spread in 10 of the last dozen meetings between these teams. And the home team has been the smart money, too. Gone 7-2 in the last 9 matchups between Pitt and VT.
He's Jason Logan at Covers.com, crunching the numbers so we don't have to. Thanks a lot, Jason. And there was all kinds of shuffling going on Monday with Miami's schedule as a result of coronavirus issues with their football program. It had an effect on multiple ACC games coming up. The Hurricanes, who played Virginia Tech last weekend without 13 guys and almost postponed that game, had subsequent positive tests. Contact trace quarantines from Sunday's testing. As a result, they will not play the following 2 weeks. The team is taking the steps needed to keep the players safe as well as others. The game against Georgia Tech this Saturday has been moved to December the 19th, the same day as the ACC championship game. I know it sounds crazy, but the ACC noted that the game would be played only if Miami is not in the ACC title game and if the result does not directly impact who plays in said title game. Their November 28th game at Wake Forest is now scheduled for December the 5th, and their game against North Carolina on December the 5th was moved to December the 12th. You got all that? Okay, good. Here's Coach Diaz talking about the issues with the virus.
What we know is we don't have a coronavirus in college football problem. We have a coronavirus in America problem, and everyone can see, or I would hope could see. I just can't say everyone can see because the way things are in 2020, everybody can't agree on anything. But certainly the math is saying that the numbers are really getting to a bad place. So our mentality the whole year has been just play the next play, take every day at its time, just trust what the day tells you on that day, make the best decision you can on that day, and then move on from there. And like I said, that's gotten us this far.
And Wake Forest is dealing with coronavirus issues of their own. The Demon Deacons had to postpone this weekend's matchup at Duke. And as WGHP's Kevin Conley reports, so far, there's no makeup date for this thing. Kevin?
Wake Forest with another interruption to its football schedule because of the coronavirus, this time from within the Wake Forest football program. Late Tuesday night, this week's game against Duke was postponed for the combination of positive cases, the need to quarantine due to contact tracing, and regular football injuries that left the roster depleted. The loss to North Carolina will have to linger a little longer, and that never sits well with coaches or players. But 2020 and the COVID-19 reality is out of everyone's control. It was a situation that head coach Dave Clawson was worried about from well before the season started. He talked about those concerns earlier this week before the game was postponed.
I mean, how can you not be concerned with what's going on in our country, our state, our county, and our school? And so we're very aware of it. And like I said, when the season started, you know, we have 11 teams we play, but the biggest opponent we have this whole season is going to be COVID, and it's not going to be defeated. So, you know, at no point have I felt confident that, hey, we're fine with that. It is a weekly battle. And when I tell you guys that every time we test, I lose sleep and I hold my breath until we get the test results back, I mean, that is an every other day event. And, you know, there's been a lot of rewards this season. I'm glad we're playing. I think the players would tell you that they're glad we're playing. But there's certainly been many unique challenges.
All right, while Wake Forest said the game is postponed, Duke hasn't said anything about rescheduling. It might be tough to get this game in as teams are suddenly up against that ACC championship game in mid-December. We're running out of weekends. Covering Wake Forest, I'm Kevin Conley.
That is the truth. We're running out of weekends because those Duke Blue Devils found out Tuesday, like you said, they wouldn't be playing this weekend against the Demon Deacons. It's crazy because the last time the Blue Devils took a week off, they came back and beat their next opponent by 34 points. Not saying they would have done that this week, but it shows time spent away. Well, spent is a plus for David Cutcliffe and company after their loss to North Carolina, you know, one in which they were pushed around at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Coach Cutcliffe felt it was necessary to get back to some hard-nosed football, old school, if you will, get an edge back on his guys. And that's exactly what they did this past week.
Physicality is a mentality, no question, but it also requires technique. It requires pad leverage. It requires bringing your feet on contact, doing the little things. And the only way I know to address that is to create in an open date good versus good, ones versus ones, lining up. I wasn't worried about seeing an opponent's look. Our defense playing our defense, our offense playing our offense, and go head-to-head on some inside drills. The same thing on some outside drills. So I think our players embraced that. They didn't view it as a negative. There was a lot of enthusiasm and energy that was created from that. Competitiveness always creates energy. And knock on wood, thank goodness we got no one injured.
Second-ranked Notre Dame is one of 3 ACC teams with a scheduled week off. The Fighting Irish are 8-0 and in sole possession of first place in the conference. Quarterback Ian Book and company haven't had a week off since September, so it's a much-needed rest before the home stretch. And Book says he has no concerns about his team staying focused as they make a push to the playoffs.
I think this bye week is going to be helpful, though, at the same time. I mean, it's a great time to rest up and, get our bodies, back to where they need to be. But the young guys have done a great job of understanding that, too. I don't think there'll be a big fall off. These guys are in it, to win a national championship just like a fifth-year senior would be, and that's how it's got to be. And Coach Kelly, again, he'll do a great job of setting the message and, going into this bye week and how we need to act during this bye week and what we need to do. But I think it's good timing. You guys, we could use a break, and it's how you use the break and what you do and take from it, how you're going to play against UNC the following week.
The Irish face a tricky road trip to Chapel Hill when they return from their week off. UNC is also enjoying a bye week this week. The Tar Heels just finished a sweep of ACC schools in North Carolina with a 59-53 come-from-behind win over Wake Forest. Quarterback Sam Howell has the Heels offense rolling. Racked up 555 yards against the Demon Deacons, threw for 6 touchdowns, and added a key score on the ground late in the fourth. Coach Mack Brown says both he and his quarterback know the stats are great, but the big come-from-behind W is even better.
Sam and I have talked a lot about a legacy for a guy like him, and his legacy will be how many games he wins. And that's what quarterbacks are remembered for. Well, he had so many touchdown passes. How many games did you win? And especially, how many quarterbacks can be down 21 and lead their team back to win and keep their confidence? Even when we had a couple of 3-and-outs, I think, to start the second half, we didn't do as well, or the first series of the second half after we gave up 3. And Sam is about winning. He's about the team, and it's probably a really good trait, but he is so level with his emotion. He never shows any emotion either way. He's always positive with the guys. He always wants to pick them up, but you never see him this way, and that's a great trait for a quarterback.
And those Boston College Eagles are off this week and getting a much-deserved break. They've been going at it since June. No time off. No positive COVID tests either, which is amazing and a testament to how they run things up there. And they played 9 straight football games, 9 straight weeks. It's been an up-and-down year for Jeff Hafley and company. New kid on the block. Nobody expected much out of his guys, but they've been fighting and putting a scare into everyone they play. Just ask Clemson and Notre Dame, they'll tell you. Not just that, but the city and the alumni have taken notice as well. I know that record might not be perfect, but it's a team, people from there and people who went there, from there and went there is what I'm trying to say, can be proud of, and that means a great deal to coach.
We're not where we want to be, but we're not far. And it's going to be a process to get there. I know that. It will continue to take hard work. But at the end of the day, I'm proud of this team. And I appreciate the support. Again, text last night from guys like Matt Ryan and Doug Flutie, again, just so supportive and excited about the future. And, I even got a text from Brad Stevens, just telling me he loves the fight of the team and loves what we're doing. And that was that one kind of surprised me, but just little things like that mean a lot to me, and it shows what the city of Boston is seeing.
Well, thanks for joining us for Playbook. Next Thursday is Thanksgiving, so we're going to take the week off and rest up for the home stretch of the season, or what I call the ham and greens holiday. So, yes, I'm not going to be here. But we're going to be back the following Thursday, December 3rd, for a brand new episode at 7. And until then, be sure to fill up on both some turkey, ham and greens, and, of course, some college football. Thank you all for tuning in. See you next time.